Hello, America. This is Call of Duty Goddess. Today is August the 5th, 2016. I have a video series that I'm going to do here in different parts according to different speakers, and it's in reference to the Citizens Commission on Benghazi press conference, and that was given on June 29th, 2016, and it was about the Commission on Benghazi hearings findings, and the Citizens Commission on Benghazi gave their findings as well through a press conference. And I would say that their findings are much more substantial than what Trey Gowdy and them said. And I think you'll learn a lot more actually than what we even knew before, or it'll substantiate what we thought we knew before. Anyway, let's listen to Clare Lopez, and I'd like to thank Just a Chippin' for bringing this to my attention. And again, this is going to be a series, and I'll leave the link below.
When we undertook to begin this second report, we think that we bring to this topic a willingness to name names, a willingness to assign responsibility and to demand accountability that too many of the others, committees and others, have not done, have neglected to do. And so in a way, coming this week after the Democrats of the Select Committee issued their report on Monday, and then the Republicans came out yesterday on Tuesday, and Representatives Jordan and Pompeo issued an additional views report yesterday as well. We're kind of in cleanup batter position, I think, today. So what I'd like to do is give you an overview of our findings, which you will see, of course, in this report in a great deal more detail, but I will give you a bit of an overview right now of those things that we think the most important. If I had to put anything at the top of this list, I think it would be that we must lay blame where blame is due. Now, naturally, that blame, of course, goes to the Commander-in-Chief, President Barack Obama, whose absence that night is most notable above anything else. But in terms of diplomatic facilities around the world, the responsibility is with the Secretary of State, and at that time that was Hillary Clinton, to provide and ensure the safety of the Americans that she sends in harm's way to do their country's business. So this report that we have put out, the findings that you will read in there, I think add what is most notably missing from any of the other committee reports or the ARB itself, Accountability Review Board that Roger mentioned from the State Department. And one of the things that we assign to this entire episode, we provide an overarching narrative, I think. We connect the dots. You know, yesterday, Representative Trey Gowdy spoke before the media presenting the committee's report, and he notably refrained from assigning blame or demanding accountability by name. And he also did not draw a connection between the dots. He did not provide an overarching explanation, if you will. I think we do that in this report. And where that leads, where those dots connected lead, is that the Obama administration and the Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, Department of State, deliberately and knowingly implemented a U.S. foreign policy to aid and abet Islamic jihadists, our enemies, and in particular, across North Africa in the year of 2011 to help and aid the Muslim Brotherhood Islamic uprising to come to power in countries like Tunisia, Libya, and Egypt. No, it did not all turn out the way they may have expected in the beginning, but that was the policy, that was the intent, to help the Muslim Brotherhood to take over government of these countries. And I also think that that policy, fundamentally flawed policy, was the fundamental cause of the ultimate debacle, catastrophe that Benghazi became in September of 2012. Now, because of the Great Purge, which took place throughout the entire United States government, 2011 till 2012, in which all presentations, all training curricula, PowerPoints, curricula, everything related to finding and naming and identifying the jihadist enemy, the global jihad enemy that we face, was purged from all training materials and from all the lexicon and official discourse across the United States government. And that means Department of State, Department of Homeland Security, Department of Justice, the military, the Pentagon, and so on, including the intelligence community. Now, because they either did not know or were not allowed to know anymore who the enemy is, the global jihad movement and all who support jihad in the fight for Sharia, that is the enemy. Because our officers were not permitted to speak of that, to know that, to pursue that, I think that had a lot to do with the policies in Benghazi specifically. And that has to do with the ability to distinguish between jihadis, Sharia-bent jihadis, like the 17 February Martyrs Brigade and Libya Shield, whom we hired, we collaborated with for our intelligence, our information, and our security at that mission in Libya. They could not distinguish or were not allowed to distinguish between jihadis like those and any in Libya who might have been our genuine allies, not jihadis. Now, from Christopher Stevens to the folks at the CIA Annex, they were in fact then relying on exactly the jihadist enemy that was eventually to turn on them and to kill 4 Americans and injure others so gravely. The policy of the State Department and of Hillary Clinton in particular is also deplorable, we find. That then in the early part of 2011, the Hillary Clinton State Department extended formal U.S. government recognition to the Muslim Brotherhood Revolution that was opposing at that time our ally in the war on terror, Muammar Gaddafi. He had given up his weapons of mass destruction verifiably, not with an unsigned executive agreement as has been done elsewhere. Verifiably given up his WMD, given up his support for terrorism that he'd been involved in for so long before that. And he was helping us with intelligence on AQ, Al-Qaeda, in the Islamic Maghreb in particular. He had Al-Qaeda in his jails. And yet when his Muslim Brotherhood in Libya, Libyan Muslim Brotherhood and Al-Qaeda militias rose up against him, we abandoned him. We turned and we supported the enemy, his enemy and ours, the Islamic jihadist enemy. That recognition was extended to the government, the Transitional National Council, in 2011. There was a presidential intelligence finding, we are told, that allowed the U.S. agencies to provide aid and funding and weapons to those Libyan militias trying to overthrow Gaddafi. Some of that was included in our earlier report back in 2014. We go into greater detail about that here. And then, of course, in 2012, the weapons flow reversed and went out of Libya, and now it was the responsibility of the CIA and the Annex team to gather up, buy back loose weapons, in particular surface-to-air missiles, and ship them out of Libya over to Turkey, and then from thence overland to, again, Muslim Brotherhood and Al-Qaeda-dominated rebels in Syria fighting to overthrow Bashar al-Assad. Now, I think that the determination of the Obama administration, and particularly the Hillary Clinton State Department, to refuse all these requests for security through 2012 that we document in quite a bit of detail in our report, has to do with preserving appearances that what they had done in overthrowing Gaddafi was the right thing. And that if they had admitted that instead the country was falling into chaos, that Al-Qaeda militias were running amok, that weapons were sloshing about every which way, if they had admitted that by acceding to requests for more security, it would have destroyed their narrative about the entire support for the revolution in the first place. Now, let me move quickly to something else we document in a great deal of detail in the report, and that is the abundance of warnings before the attacks of 11 September 2012. First of all, it was the anniversary of 9/11. That alone should have put the U.S. forces and diplomatic missions the world over on extra alert. We know now from CIA Annex security team members who have gone public now in a wonderful book, 13 Hours, and also the movie by the same name, that there was an intelligence report at least 2 weeks out before the attack of 11 September began, warning of such an attack. Furthermore, we know that there was another intelligence report that specifically talked about Ansar al-Sharia attacking potentially within the next 24 hours. This comes out on 10 September. Not necessarily against the U.S. mission, but an attack was planned. Now, what happened on 9 September, that is 2 days out from the attack, was that an Egyptian TV talk show host aired a clip of the YouTube video called Innocence of Muslims. That video, really crudely produced, to be sure, was in fact not really anti-Islam at all. It contained vignettes from the life of Muhammad taken from the Sunnah and the Sirat, the biography of Muhammad. When he aired that on his show and invited outrage, Al-Azhar University responded quickly with a fatwa, and the outrage built. The embassy in Cairo knew this from social media. They did nothing. No warnings went out. No military forces were alerted to move forces perhaps closer to potential flashpoints. These are more of the warnings. And then finally, of course, the day before, this is very important, Ayman al-Zawahiri, then the head of al-Qaeda, issued a video on jihadi websites, and he called for, "O sons of Libya, rise up and kill Americans," because the CIA had assassinated his deputy, a Libyan, Abu Yahya Libi, some months before in the Afghanistan-Pakistan region with a drone strike. That, I've always thought, was the green light for the attack to come the next day. All of these warnings then ignored. No forces were moved into place. You will hear more from General McInerney and from Admiral Lyons about the authority of combatant commanders to move forces within their region under their authority. They could have done that. They did not do that. Finally then, after ignoring all of these warnings, the attack, of course, unfolds. Now, here is a very important point, and that is that night, 11-12 September, Hillary Clinton wielded cross-border authority for Libya on behalf of the United States that night. She had the authority to give or to withhold cross-border authority for U.S. military forces to enter into Libya to rescue our people, or at least attempt a rescue. Now, typically, ordinarily, the procedure is to request permission from the host government, and we were, in fact, in contact with that host government, but no request was made. The State Department issued no request to the Libyan government for cross-border authority, in fact, not until the next morning, when a plane came in from Germany to pick up the survivors and the bodies of those who had fallen. So the position that we want to get across here, the point that we want to get across here, is that Hillary Clinton once again was pivotal. She could have authorized the military to move. Without orders, the military cannot cross an international border, and they did not that night, and they left our people to fight and die alone the entire night. Let me finish this quickly with the cover-up afterwards that we go into in some detail. There was collusion from the very beginning at the White House level to disseminate a false narrative to blame the attack on our mission in Benghazi, which was an Islamic Jihad attack by Ansar al-Sharia, an al-Qaeda affiliate, to blame that on a YouTube video. The collusion went like this, and we know this again, hat tip to Judicial Watch for getting these documents, that the White House turned immediately to Rashad Hussain, who is at that time was the administration envoy to the OIC, Organization of Islamic Cooperation, and turned to Huma Abedin, Hillary Clinton's top aide, in order to collaborate with the U.S. Muslim Brotherhood within 48 hours, they were all aligned in their message. They were posting, they were broadcasting. And certainly at the end of September, when all the countries meet at the United Nations for the UN General Assembly, all of the OIC presidents, prime ministers, heads of state took the podium one after the other to denounce not just the video, but to call for curbs on free speech, restrictions on free speech, because what is the number one 10-year and counting objective of the OIC, the Islamic countries of this world? It is to criminalize the criticism of Islam. Hillary Clinton, while she was Secretary of State, worked very closely with the OIC to implement their program of criminalizing criticism of Islam. When this Benghazi debacle took place, they could not resist the urge to use it as an agenda item to further this objective to curb free speech, our First Amendment rights. So let me conclude there, and of course we'll have time for your questions afterwards, but a brief overview of our report. Thank you.